A walk down the main street in Hamtramck, Michigan, feels like a tour around the world.A Polish sausage store and an Eastern European bakery sit alongside a Yemeni department store and a Bengali clothing shop. Church bells ring out along with the Islamic call to prayer. The world in 2 square miles, Hamtramck lives up to its slogan, with around 30 languages spoken within its 5 square kilometers area. This month, the Midwestern city of 28,000 has reached a milestone. Hamtramck has elected an all-Muslim city council and a Muslim mayor, becoming the first in the U.S. to have a Muslim American government. Once faced with discrimination, Muslim residents have become integral to this multicultural city, and now make up more than half its population. And despite economic challenges and intense cultural debates, residents in Hamtramck from different religious and cultural backgrounds coexist in harmony, making the city a meaningful case study for America's future of rising diversity. But will Hamtramck be an exception or a rule? The arc of Hamtramck's history from beginnings as a town of German settlers to the modern day it was America's first majority Muslim city, is etched in its streets.
Storefronts display signs in Arabic and Bengali, embroidered Bangladeshi garments and jambias, a type of short curved blade from Yemen, are seen in store windows. Muslim residents queue up to buy pachki, a kind of custard-filled Polish donut. It's not unusual to see some with miniskirts and tattoos and some in burqas walking on the same street. This is all about, as said Zlatan Sadikovic, a Bosnian immigrant who owns a cafe in downtown Hamtramck. A stone's throw outside Detroit, which partly envelops the city, Hamtramck was once part of the epicenter of America's automotive industry, dominated by the General Motors plant that straddled its border with Motor City. The first Cadillac Eldorado rolled off the assembly line in Hamtramck in the 1980s. Over the course of the 20th century, it became known as Little Warsaw, as Polish immigrants flocked in for the blue-collar jobs. The city was one of the stops of Polish-born Pope John Paul II's U.S. tour in 1987. In 1970, as much as 90% of the city was of Polish origin. However, that decade saw the beginning of the long decline of U.S. car manufacturing, and younger, wealthier Polish Americans began moving to the suburbs. The change made Hamtramck one of Michigan's poorest cities, but the affordability attracted immigrants. Over the last 30 years, Hamtramck transformed again, to become a landing pad for Arab and Asian immigrants, notably those from Yemen and Bangladesh. A significant portion of the city's residents today, 42%, are foreign-born. More than half are believed to be practicing Muslims. The newly elected government's makeup reflects the changing demographics in Hamtramck. The city council will include 2 Bengali Americans, 3 Yemeni Americans and a Polish American convert to Islam. Winning 68% of the vote, Hamtramck will be the first Yemeni American mayor in the US. I feel honored and proud, but I know it's a big responsibility. Mr. Ghalib, 41, said. Born in a village in Yemen, he moved to the US when he was 17, first working in a factory making plastic car parts near Hamtramck. He later learned English and received medical training, and now works as a healthcare professional. Rather than being a melting pot or salad bowl, Hamtramck is more like a 7-layer cake where different groups retain their distinct cultures while closely coexisting with each other, said City Council member-elect Amanda Jachkowski. People are still proud of their culture specifically, whereas if it's assimilation, we would lose the uniqueness. When you live this close to each other, you are forced to overcome those differences. Ms. Jachkowski, 29, said. But Hamtramck is not Disneyland, said Karen Majewski, the outgoing mayor who will have served in office for 15 years before stepping down. It's just a small place. And we do have conflicts. Friction arose in 2004 following a vote to broadcast the Islamic call to prayer in public. Some residents have argued that a ban on bars near mosques hurts the local economy. 6 years ago, when it became the first American city to elect a Muslim-majority government, press from all over the world descended upon Hamtramck. Some media reports at the time painted a picture of a tense town with an influx of Muslims. A national TV anchor asked whether Ms. Majewski was afraid of being mayor. There was even speculation from some that a Muslim-controlled city council might impose Sharia law. In Hamtramck, People roll their eyes at that kind of talk, said Ms. Maevsky. She was gratified that Hamtramck has been a welcoming community, she said, and it's natural for new residents to vote for those who understand their experience and their languages. The U.S. Census Bureau does not collect information about religion, but the Pew Research Center think tank estimates that there were about 3.85 million Muslims living in the U.S. in 2020, making up about 1.1% of the total population. By 2040, Muslims are projected to become the second largest religious group in the U.S., after Christians. Despite their growing presence, Muslims in America had often been subjected to prejudice. 20 years after the 9/11 attack, Islamophobia still haunts Muslims and other Arab Americans. Close to half of Muslim American adults told Pew in 2016 that they had personally experienced some form of discrimination when the then candidate Donald Trump proposed a ban on immigrants from Muslim-majority countries entering the U.S. Researchers also found that among all religious groups, Muslims still face the most negative views from the American public. More than half of Americans say they do not personally know any Muslims, but those who personally know and believe are less likely to think that Islam encourages violence more than other religions. Hamtramck is a living example of how personal knowledge curtails Islamophobia. When Shahad Ahmed ran for city council member shortly after the 9/11 attack, he faced an uphill battle. There were flies all over the city saying, "I am the 20th hijacker that didn't make it to the airplanes," the Bengali American said. After he lost the election in 2001, Mr. Ahmed knocked on neighbors' doors to introduce himself. He was elected 2 years later, becoming Hamtramck's first Muslim city official. Since then, support for the Muslim community has grown in the city. In 2017, when the Trump administration imposed the entry ban, residents came together to protest. In a way, it mobilized and unified a lot of people because everybody knows that in order to live in Hamtramck, you have to respect other people, said Razi Jafri, co-director of documentary film Hamtramck, USA.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.